Hello and welcome to Host Planet Bite Size, the podcast brought to you by Host Planet and Hostfully. My name's James Farley, the founder of Host Planet, and our goal is to share everything you need to know about buying and managing short-term rentals. Today's guest is Amanda Stecker from Holiday Letology and Unique Cotswold Cottages, and she's got 5 ways that hosts and property managers can support their local community. I reckon you'll love tip number 3, which is related to your welcome hamper. Are you looking to streamline your operations and amaze your guests? Look no further than Hostfully. With their top-rated property management software, you can automate reservations, payments, and guest communication all in one place. Plus, their award-winning digital guidebooks provide personalized recommendations and essential information, ensuring your guests have an unforgettable stay while helping you achieve those all-important outstanding reviews. Join the thousands of satisfied property managers who trust Hostfully to grow their business. Visit hostfully.com to elevate your short-term rental game today. Amanda, welcome to Host Planet Bite Size. Thank you so much for joining us. You're going to share 5 ways that hosts can support their local community. So take it away with tip number 1.
Okay, so tip number 1 is that send restaurant and activity recommendations to your guests before their stay. So I recommend about 10 days before their stay so that it's up to date. You send out either a link to a web page or you can send it in an email, but you actually suggest where are the best places to go and eat. And this encourages guests to think about it and to actually book somewhere. And it also encourages them to actually spend in the local community.
And in my experience, a host recommendation can be a lot more reliable than a TripAdvisor or an online recommendation. So it really is appreciated by the guests, right?
Absolutely. And often there is just 1 or 2 places that are preferred by you and preferred by your guests. So actually talking about them before the guest comes, it gives them time to be able to book that place. And it means that they feel comfortable that they've got a good choice, a good option for their stay, which improves their experience of their stay and therefore is more likely to lead to great reviews.
Fantastic. Tip number 1. What's tip number 2, Amanda?
So tip number 2 is instead of leaving a coffee machine for guests, leave a note to direct them to the best coffee in town and explain that you're doing this to support local businesses. And in actual fact, coffee pods, if you leave those coffee pod machines, they're not very environmentally friendly and they also often break. So they can be the real bane of a host's life. So this is a way you don't have to worry about that, but you're also supporting local businesses by saying to guests, you know, we want you to go and try out coffee. Here's where we think the best place is. What do you think?
And I imagine here you're directing people to these independent coffee shops rather than, for example, Starbucks or something like that.
Exactly. And again, you know, it's really important to keep it up to date because these coffee shops, you know, the independent places, they come and go. But it's tips like that again, really give the guest a really positive experience. And we actually say, you know, we actively aren't leaving a coffee machine because we want you to go and try out the coffee locally.
I think that's fantastic. Okay, then 2 tips down. Tip number 3.
Okay, so my tip number 3 is to supply local goods in your welcome pack. So we're in the Cotswolds, so we leave guests 2 bottles of Cotswold gin and tonic. And we also leave them locally sourced chocolates, locally sourced honey, and as far as we can, locally sourced treats. And if they're not local treats, they're British made, so that the guests really are they really are putting back into you know the economy and Great Britain.
Yeah, I think it's a really great thing to do. And again, really appreciated by guests, especially if the area where you are is known for something in particular. If it's a certain type of cheese or biscuits or honey or whatever, I think it really kind of puts a smile on your guests' faces when they arrive.
It does. And the other thing is it's often quite hard to find those local producers. They haven't always got a great web presence. And one tip is to go to the local farmers market, because there you'll find little local producers who really appreciate you actually doing an arrangement with them where they will supply you goods for your welcome pack.
Brilliant tip there. Yes. Okay. So 3 down then. What's tip number 4, Amanda?
Okay, so tip number 4 is to do a deal with a local cafe or a local restaurant or a local company that provides activities, and let your guests know about that, and maybe even do a reciprocal arrangement. So one of my properties is in Chipping Campden in the Cotswolds, and there's an organisation there called the Cotswold Academy of Flowers, and people come from all over the world to do their courses, their flower arranging courses. And so we have an arrangement where we recommend them in our guest book, and they recommend us to the people that are booking on their courses.
Fantastic to make it a mutually beneficial arrangement. Yeah, I have a similar thing with a local Indian restaurant, which is just at the end of the street. Very, very popular. And yeah, it's, I got in contact with them and said, look, we've got a lot of guests coming. So if we send them your way, can you give a discount or something? And, they said, yeah, no problem. Here's a discount. Just let them know that they need to say that they're staying at your properties, and they'll get a bit of money off their meal. It's a simple thing to do. And it lets the businesses know as well that you're thinking of them and that you're a net positive to the local community.
Exactly. I totally agree. We've also got in one of our properties directly opposite is a little cafe. And if they say they're staying with us, then they get a discount.
Yeah, it's just a great thing all round. Okay, then. So 4 tips down. What's the 5th and final tip, Amanda?
Okay, so the final one is to highlight local providers. For example, babysitters, local taxi drivers, dog sitters, or even local tours that are going on. And again, send this to the guests before their stay so that they can plan their stay. They can book the babysitter. If they've got a wedding, they can book a dog sitter. They don't have to do all that legwork themselves, and you're recommending local people.
Yeah, it's very simple, but very effective. I mean, with some of these things as well, there is the potential to earn upselling revenue. But I think often when you're making local recommendations, it is just about being a good member of the community and supporting the local economy.
Absolutely. So we have a lady who I met, and I don't get a commission from her because I just figured it's not, in the end, how much commission is it really going to be for me? She's an individual providing massages and treatments, but we do recommend her. And I had a free trial, so she did it on me first. So that was kind of my commission. And then she was brilliant, very, very experienced, worked in lots of big spas in the local area. And we recommend her, and we do have guests booking for her to come into the property and actually do a treatment.
So those 5 tips then, we've got make those restaurant recommendations before people arrive, send people to the best coffee in town, local goods in the welcome pack, do a deal with a cafe, restaurant or local business, and provide information to guests about local suppliers. Amanda, just talk to us about the impacts that your short-term rental can have on the local community, on the local economy, just by sharing this simple information.
So I think the real positive is that you're giving to the local community rather than taking away. And when people are a little bit negative about holiday rentals or, sort of the short stay accommodation, you can highlight some of the things that you do. I mean, I also employ local people to be my housekeepers, and the job is generally between 11 and 3, which is when we've got changeovers. And that means that people who have got young kids at home perhaps couldn't do other types of jobs that are between 11 and 3 can. So I feel that it gives a really positive message to the local community that we are thinking about them. But it's also really good for your guests, because when you've taken the time to find out this information and recommend it to them, it shows them that you care about them and their stay, which in turn really helps your reviews and therefore can lead to better bookings.
Absolutely, yeah. Better reviews is going to eventually lead to more occupancy, and you would think better profits as well further down the line. Okay, Amanda, just give us the chat about holiday letology and unique Cotswold cottages before we sign off.
Absolutely. So I run Unique Cotswold Cottages. I found it about 7 years ago, started with one small property, and I now have 6. And this year we launched our service where We are offering to manage other people's properties as well, because up until this point, I've been just the owner and managing my own properties. We're all in the North Cotswolds, and we consistently achieve a higher nightly rate and higher occupancy than other local properties in the area. And one of the reasons is some of the extras that we provide, as I've talked about today. And I set up my coaching mentoring program about 3 or 4 years ago, because when I started, I felt like there was very little support out there for new players, new hosts. And there's obviously more and more. There's people like you now. But what I do is I mentor people through the whole process of finding the right property if they haven't got one yet. But if they have got a property, how to set it up, how to run it. If they're with an agent, how to move away from that agent and confidently set up their listings on their own, and then how to maximize their income. And if you are interested and you want to talk to me about how I might be able to help you grow your business, then feel free to email me at amanda@holidayletology.com, or you can follow me on social media, Holiday Letology on Instagram and Facebook. And I will also be at the Short Stay Summit. So more than happy to have a chat there as well.
Fantastic. Okay, we will put those links in the show notes so that people can find you. Amanda, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on Host Planet Bite Size.
Thank you. It's been great.
Great to chat to Amanda Stecker there about how you can be a great advocate for your local area. Heading to a nearby farmers market to meet local suppliers is a really great tip. All right, that's just about it for today's episode. Remember, this series is sponsored by Hostfully, and if you'd like to try their PMS or digital guidebook, head to hostfully.com. For more free education, tips and trends from the STR industry, visit houseplanet.club, where you can sign up for our newsletter, listen to our podcasts, and download a suite of ebooks for hosts and property managers. That's it for today's episode of House Planet Bite Size. Until next time, happy hosting.